Gopi Jana Vallabha Shrimadbhagavatam Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Randana Natira Gopi Jana Vallabha Shrimadbhagavatam Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Randana Yamuna Tira Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shrimadbhagavatam ki. glorious and simple. God glorious and simple. God glorious and simple. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Shaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasim.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudiriye.
Tato Jayamudire.
Nastaprayeshu Padreshu.
Nastaprayeshu.
Nitrim Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Tamashloke.
Bhagavati Tamashloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
Hare Krishna. 23. Reading from Grantharaj Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, text number 23. Savayam yad paramatra surayo.
Savayam yad padamatra surayo.
Jitendriya nirjita matarishvana.
Jitendriya nirjita matarisvana.
Pashyanti bhakti kalita malatmana.
Pashyanti bhakti utkalita malatmana.
Nanesha sattvam parimarshtamarhati.
Nanvesha sattvam parimarshtamarhati.
Savamayam yat paramatra surayo.
Nanvesha sattvam paramashtam arhati.
Savayam yat paramatra surayo.
Savayam yat padamatra surayo.
Jitendriya nirjita matarishvana.
Jitendriya nirjita matarasvana.
Pashyanti bhaktya utkalitmanalatmana.
Pashyanti bhakti utkalita malatmana.
Naresha sattvam parimarshtumarhati.
Nanvesha sattvam parimarshtamarhati.
Savayam yat padamatra surayo.
Savayam yat padamatra surayo.
Jitendriya nirjita matarishvana.
Jitendriya nirjita matarisvana.
Pashyanti bhaktya utkalita malatmana.
Pashyanti bhakti utkalita malatmana.
Nanvesha sattvam parimarshutam arhati.
Nanvesha sattvam parimarshtamarhati. Savaya ayam yat padamata surayo.
Savayam yat padamatra surayo.
Jitendriya nirjita matarisvana. Pashyanti bhakti utkalita malatmana. Nanvesha sattvam parimarshtamarhati.
Savayam yat padamatra surayo. Savayam yat padamatra surayo.
Jitendriya nirjita matarisvana. Pashyanti bhakti utkalita malatmana. Nanvesha sattvam parimarshtamarhati.
Savayam yat padam atra surayo.
Savayam Padamatrasrayo
Jitindriya Nurjita Matarisvana
Jitendriyani Jitamatarishvana
Pasyati Bhakti Kalit Amlam Mana
Pashyanti Bhakti Utkalitamalakmana
Nandesya Sadvam Parimarishati
Namesa Sattvam Varimastumahati
Saha, he, by providence.
By providence.
Ayam,
Ayam.
this, yat, that which. Paramatra,
Padamatra.
here is the same personality of God as Shri Krishna.
Here is the same personality of God as Sri Krishna.
Surya,
Suraya,
great devotees.
great devotees.
Jita Indriya,
Jita Indriya,
who have overcome the influence of the senses.
who have overcome the influence of the senses.
Nirjita,
Nirjita,
thoroughly controlled.
thoroughly controlled.
Matar Ishvana,
Atarisvana,
life.
life.
Pashyanti,
Pashanti,
can see.
can see.
Bhakti,
Bhakti,
by dint of devotional service.
devotional service.
Atkilita,
Atkilita
developed.
developed.
Amala Atmana,
Amalatmana,
those whose minds are thoroughly cleansed.
those whose minds are thoroughly cleansed.
Nanuesha,
Unmeasured.
certainly by this only.
Only by his own
Sattvam,
Sadvan
existence.
Existent.
Parimarshtam,
Parimarsha,
for purifying the mind completely.
for
purifying the mind completely.
Arhati,
Arhati,
deserve.
deserves.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace of Vaichananda in the Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Here is the same personality of Godhead whose transcendental form is experienced by the great devotees who are completely cleansed of material consciousness by dint of rigid devotional service and full control of life and the senses. And that is the only way to purify existence. Please repeat. Here is the same
Here is the same
Supreme Personality of Godhead
Supreme Personality of Godhead,
whose transcendental form
whose transcendental form
is experienced by
is experienced by
the great devotees
the great devotees
who are completely cleansed
who are completely cleansed
of material consciousness
of material consciousness
by dint of devotional service
by dint of rigid devotional service
and full control of life
and full control of life
and the senses.
and the senses.
And that is the only way
And that is the only way
to purify existence.
to purify existence.
Purport. As is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord can be known in His real nature by dint of pure devotional service only. So it is stated here that only the great devotees of the Lord who are able to clear the mind of all the material dust by rigid devotional service can experience the Lord as He is. Jitendriya means one who has full control over the senses. The senses are active parts of the body, and their activities cannot be stopped. The artificial means of the yogic process to make the senses inactive has proved to be abject failure, even in the case of great yogis like Shrimadbhagavatam Muni. Shrimadbhagavatam Muni controlled the senses by yogic trance, but when he happened to meet Menaka, a heavenly society woman, he became a victim of sex, and the artificial way of controlling the senses failed. But in the case of a pure devotee, the senses are not at all artificially stopped from doing anything, but they are given different good engagements. When the senses are engaged in more attractive activities, there is no chance of being attached by the inferior engagements. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that senses can be controlled only by better engagements. Devotional service necessitates purifying the senses or engaging them in the activities of the devotional service. Devotional service is not inaction. Anything done in the service of the Lord becomes at once purified of its material nature. The material conception is due to ignorance only. There is nothing beyond Vasudeva. The Vasudeva conception gradually develops in the heart of the learned after a prolonged acceleration of the receptive organs. But the process ends in knowledge of accepting Vasudeva as all in all. In the case of devotional service, the very same method is accepted from the very beginning. And by the grace of the Lord, all factual knowledge becomes revealed in the heart of the devotee due to dictation by the Lord from within. Therefore, controlling the senses by devotional service is the only and easiest means. Omagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasme Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadapi Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagatatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parilana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sarana Rita Shri Vishakam Hey Krishna Purana Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripre Vancha Kalpa Rubhya Shakrupa Sindhu Vyevata Nanam Pavayubhyo Vaishnavidyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tirami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvitita Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshakari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Here is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose transcendental form is experienced by the great devotees, who are completely cleansed of material consciousness by dint of rigid devotional service and full control of the life and senses. And that is the only way to purify existence. So, the ladies of Hastinapur are speaking. They have assembled on the rooftop and they are observing Krishna. And they are explaining and glorifying the Lord. This is actually the whole purpose of existence, is to live for the purpose of glorifying the Supreme Lord. That is the greatest opportunity we have in this human form of life. And the very powerful, important statements are made here in this verse. That Krishna is only experienced by the pure devotees. Just like, if somebody comes and brings a bag of stones, and amongst those bags, one stone is a real diamond. Will we know which is the real diamond? Because we're not trained in that art. We're not jewelers. But if you put in front of a jeweler, how long it will take them to find the real diamond? Instant. Because they have the expertise. So like that, if Krishna walked into the room, we would know this is the Supreme Personality of God. Because our training is not yet complete. So Krishna says at the end of Bhagavad Gita, or towards the end of this Bhaktiya Mam Abhijanati Yama Yaschakti Tattva, that I can only be known by unflagging devotional service, pure devotional service. So it takes purity to see purity. Srila Prabhupada was once asked, the offering is going, Prabhupada, did the deities really eat the offerings? And what Prabhupada responded? He said, yes, I can see the deities eating, but you cannot see. And he explained that when one's senses become purified, then they can see purity. Premanjana charita bhakti vilochanena. That when the eyes become anointed with pure love, then the eyes will be able to see Krishna. So, Krishna is there, but we are not yet able to see. So why? Because the senses are impure. So Krishna is standing here. There's Radha Kunj behind. We see deity. Sometimes we feel we see Krishna. But if we really are seeing Krishna, would we ever leave? Right? So we are in the process of trying to see Krishna. So these ladies are speaking very wonderfully that the transcendental form is experienced by the great devotees. So what makes a great devotee? Somebody who has memorized all 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita? Somebody who has, great yogic postures and asanas and pranayams? Someone who can sing beautifully for the Lord? Somebody who can even decorate the Lord or cook? That's not what makes a great devotee. What makes a great devotee is said here, by the great devotees who are completely cleansed of material consciousness. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told us that our measure of progress in spiritual life is measured by how much I have detached from the material world. I can measure today, you can say in 6-month increments. 6 months ago, was I more attached or less attached to my dramas, to some mundane musics, to some mundane activities, eating foodstuffs not offered to the Lord, all these material attachments? More or less. If less, okay, I'm making progress in spiritual life. If more, then I'm going backwards. Simple. Attachment to material life is the measure of our progress in spiritual life. So it's a very objective measure for us. Otherwise it's hard to measure. Am I chanting my rounds better or not? Am I loving Krishna more or not? It's hard for us to assess. But this attachment to our material hankerings, that we can assess if we're honest with ourselves. So that should be our measuring stick. Because it's once one is completely cleansed of material consciousness, can one see Krishna? We always say like these lenses, right? If they are all filled with 1 inch of dust, I can put the glasses on, but I'll not see anything. Why I cannot see? Because there's contamination. So I have to remove that contamination. So the material senses become spiritualized by dint of devotional service. Right? So what is the process of spiritualizing the senses? It is by devotional service. That is the outcome. That's why we say Rishikesha Rishikena. Right? Rishikesh, who is the master of the senses? It's Krishna. But when our senses are used at the dictations of the mind, then the senses become contaminated. So when we say the senses are in ignorance, what it means is only in ignorance we'll use the senses for material things. Because that means we are in ignorance of who is the controller, master of the senses. Who is Rishikesha? So only in ignorance one will do that. And what does it mean to use the senses of material? It means to see things other than Krishna. To hear things other than Krishna. To taste things other than Krishna. To smell things other than Krishna. To touch things other than Krishna. So when we use the senses to try to enjoy in a bodily platform, it is an ignorance. And we are contaminating the senses. And we are polluting the mind. And the problem is that the senses, they are the gateway to the mind. What is the mind? It is a database. It stores desires. Why I want to go see something, some beautiful lady walks by, the head turns 180 degrees. Why? Because when the senses perceive things, it creates impressions in the mind. When the ears hear something, it creates impressions in the mind. Think, what is marketing? Marketing is simply trying to occupy space in our mind. If I have a company and I have a product that I want people to buy, what do I need to do? I need to show it to them. I need to tell them about it. Why? So that I can occupy space in the mind saying, I want that product. Right? So that's good marketing. When they can create the desire in the mind. So that desire in the mind is created via the senses. So, and once the desire is in the mind, it's very difficult to remove. Very difficult to remove. It's the mind, we should treat it like a very soft clay ball. Very soft clay ball. Anything touches it, a mark will happen. If I touch with just this piece of paper, it'll make a mark on that ball. Right? Now the problem is, removing that line is very difficult. If I just rub, what happens? More mass. Now I have to really... So making the mark, the line is easy. The impression is easy. But removing it now becomes very difficult. So when we say, what is the harm watching this video? What is the harm hearing this thing? What is the harm? The harm is we are making these impressions in the mind, these lines in this ball, and removing them is so much energy. So much effort. So the sincere devotee is very protective of where the senses are allowed to roam. Very protective. Maniacally protective. Because of the difficulty that once that impression is made, and we all have experience of that. We see something, it captures us, and then that thought lingers in the mind for so long. So the devotee is very cautious, very careful. So how to purify the mind is given by dint of rigid devotional service and control of the life and senses. So by the process of devotional service, one can control the senses. There's no other way to control the senses. The senses by nature are active. If you tell a 2-year-old boy, sit and don't do anything, it's possible? If a 2-year-old boy has a hammer and is breaking this mirror, and he says, just stop and sit, it's possible? No. So what do we do with a 2-year-old boy? We say, no, they don't have, play with this. And we re-engage the action of that child into something that's not destructive. So our senses cannot be stopped. We cannot stop seeing things, hearing things, tasting things, smelling things, touching things. We cannot stop the senses. So spiritual life means to proactively engage the senses nicely. And Krishna gives us this beautiful formula. This is like one of the most merciful natures of the Lord. He says in Bhagavad Gita, Param Drishta Nivartante. That by the Param Drishta, by the higher taste, one can automatically lose the lower tastes. What does that mean? That Krishna says that you don't have to be fully pure to experience the bliss of spiritual life. Just start, even if you are full of material contamination and full of material hankerings and lamentations, no problem. Just start spiritual life. And what will happen? When I taste the higher rasa of spiritual life, I will naturally move away from all these material hankerings. One doesn't have to leave the material hankerings. So spiritual life is an additive process, not a subtractive process. If we say, okay, you give up all these activities, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, people, nobody will come. But instead we say, no, you do. You chant the holy names of the Lord. You eat prasadam, honor prasadam. You hear about the Lord. You see the forms of the Lord. These additive processes, what it does, one starts to realize, wow, I'm enjoying seeing the Lord so much more than this bag of pus, bile, stool, blood. See how strong Maya is. We have so much attraction to this body. But this body is filth. Think, what comes out of this body smelling good? Nothing. Yet, in a material-oriented life, we spend the whole life chasing this bag. If somebody brings you a bag of stool, blood, pus, mucus, bile, you won't even touch that bag. But our whole life is spent trying to touch this bag. This is how Maya works. When we think in this way, Prabhupada would write in his purports this way, you're like, shocking! But it's reality. And here Krishna is standing in his Tribhanga, three-folded form so beautifully. But the eyes are not yet conditioned. So it takes through devotional service. By the additive process of spiritual life, one will naturally gravitate to the higher taste. And why Krishna is so merciful, I said? Because he doesn't require purity for us to experience it. See, let's say in another example, if you want to take some job, you have to quit your other job. You can't say, well, I'll work with you for a few days, months, weeks, and then I'll let you know. No, you have to commit. You want to buy a house. You can't say, let me stay in the house for 1 year. If I like it, then I'll buy it. You want to marry somebody. You can't say, well, let's marry and then if it works out, Unfortunately, that happens in today's society, but that's a different story. But Krishna says, no problem. You are married to your material attachments? No problem. You come and spend 5 minutes with me. Then by the higher taste, 10 minutes tomorrow, 15 minutes. And you slow. Krishna doesn't say, okay, you abandon all your material attachments first, then you can serve me. He says, no, patram pushpam phalam tavyam. So he gives no preconditions. And he knows that by parandrishto nivartate, by this higher taste, one will naturally come to spiritual life. So this is the only means to control the senses. But in our sadhaka state, we have to practice devotional service, but we have to also work to control our senses. Some right discipline is required. This word is used, rigid devotional service, not convenient devotional service. Rigid. We need discipline. We can only be the governor of our discipline. That is our free will. That is our free will. But the more disciplined we are, the more success we'll make. The more disciplined we are in our studies, what happened? The more disciplined we are in honoring Prasadam, what happens? The more we eat. The more disciplined we are in dressing ourselves, what happens? The better we dress. Discipline is required for anything we want success in. Well, when it comes to bhakti, I should be able to do according to my heart's desire. Doesn't work that way. Our sadhana bhakti requires discipline. And we have to be the governor of our discipline. So we should practice our devotional service with great discipline. And the discipline is not subjective, meaning it's not up to our own mental speculation what to be disciplined about. No. Our acharyas give us the process, what to do and also what not to do. Discipline doesn't mean, I'm going to do some extreme fastings. No, that's not recommended in our spiritual process. But I should do some austerity. I should be disciplined on Ekadashi. Follow it strictly. Chant extra rounds. Right? Whatever it is. So this discipline is also prescribed. And the discipline in that process yields great results. So if we are practicing devotional service, but the senses are not coming under control. And again, what does control mean? That they are roaming here and there. And I am becoming attracted to things. That's control. That I cannot pull my senses away from ignorance, from material objects. That means I cannot control my senses. But a pure devotee, they can be in the midst of all material temptations. And they're not the least disturbed. Why? Because they have the higher taste. If there is a $10 bill on the ground, what do you do?
Open it up and put it in your pocket.
You'll take the effort to stop.
Right.
You'll take the effort to bend down. Touch it. You won't look and see anything. Is it real, right? Is it dirty? Is it clean? You'll immediately take it and put it in your pocket. Right? Why? Because $10 has value. Now, Elon Musk is walking down the street and he sees $10. What's he going to do?
He will not care.
He won't likely even see it. Why? Because he is well far, far beyond. We won't miss it. So the pure devotee, they just walk past all material. They can be in the midst of all maya, all material allurements. Why they are not? Because they are looking at something so much higher, more value, Krishna. So they have no temptation. But this happens only by devotional service. Only by devotional service. There is no other means. No other means. And the rigidity, the disciplined approach of our devotional service will define the strength we have to resist the urgent. The pure devotee doesn't resist the material allurements. They don't need discipline. They don't need steadfast. They have no taste for it. We need discipline. No, don't look at this. No, don't hear this. Don't go to this sangha because I'll become tempted by that. Because we have not yet fully committed in this hierarchy. But the pure devotee has no such issues. So they are not involved in rigid discipline of their senses. Their senses are naturally attracted because they have fully purified. And that is the natural position of us. Our senses are pure. But they become contaminated. We contaminated them. And when you purify them, then... So why my senses, if they're naturally attracted to Krishna, right now are more attracted to the cinema? Why? Because of the avidya. We are in this jaundiced condition. Rupa Goswami gives a wonderful example. In the jaundiced condition, what is sweet tastes bitter. And what is bitter tastes sweet. What is sweet, Krishna? Not so. What is bitter, the material world? Oh, very nice. Very jaundiced. How to cure jaundice? Keep eating this sugar.
Sweet.
It's tasting bitter, but keep doing it. So how to keep doing it? Discipline. Discipline. We're not going to do because of taste yet. Why? Because taste is bitter. But I know by continuing to eat this sweet, the real taste will come. So it might be bitter to rise early in the morning and attend Mangalarti. It might be bitter to really attentively chant our rounds nicely. It might be a little bit bitter to read Shrimadbhagavatam compared to other things. But why one does it? Because they know this is the cure of my avidya, my jaundice. And when I do, I'll experience such a bliss and higher taste that I become so powerful that nothing in the material world can take my attention away from Krishna. There is no greater power. But just trying to enter into some meditative trance doesn't work. And how we know? Shrimadbhagavatam Muni. He was a great yogi. He sat down for intense meditation. And he was acquiring great power. And what happened? Who became envious or worried? Lord Indra. So he knew, no real big trouble. I'll break his trance. How? He sent Menaka, a beautiful celestial woman. And how Vishwamitra Muni's trance was broken? When he saw the beautiful Menaka? No. Now understand this. He was in such a deep, intense meditative state that Lord Indra, sitting planet systems away, knew this fellow is going to acquire huge. If I sit in a meditative state, nobody will care because it's such a fickle meditation. Maybe 10 minutes, hour, 10 hour, but that is like, there's no meditation of power. Lord Indra won't come and try to distract us. We are no threat. But Vishwamitra Muni's meditation was so powerful that it posed a threat. And so you would think that it would take something significant to break his meditation. Like seeing meditation. But his meditation broke, not by seeing, by just hearing the ankle bells. Before even seeing, before smelling, before just hearing the ankle bells, meditation broke. And he became overcome with lust. Now, let's compare that. So that in one case we see what happens by that process of controlling senses. Okay, but is there a better way? Let's compare in another example. That Srila Haridas Thakur, he was chanting the holy names of the Lord with so much potency that the king, the Nawab of that area, became very envious. Same story. Same story. He became very envious because he was getting much fame and attention. This was in Benapole. We actually went to this place one time, many, many years ago in Bangladesh with Vaishnava. Beautiful place. And he was doing his japa. So the king said, okay, I'm going to ruin his character. How? There was one prostitute there in that area that was undeniable. She had never been denied by anyone because she was so beautiful, so attractive, and so charming that nobody could resist her. So the king said, no problem. I'll just send this product, and immediately his fame will be ruined. I'll have evidence, and I'll put in the newspaper. There's one picture. Send out on WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. Everybody will know who this Haridas is. So he sent this prostitute to engage with Haridas Thakur. And she was smart. She didn't go during Mangal Arati time. She went in the evening time when mode of passion is highest. So she goes in the evening time, dressed very beautifully. And in very sweet words, she approaches Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur says, what do you have come for? He says, I have come to engage with you. He said, okay, whatever, let me finish my japa. And whatever you have come for, I'll attend to, but let me finish my chanting. So he continues his chanting. Deep into the night, into the early morning, she became frustrated and left. She gave the results to the king. He said, okay, go back again. So second night, same dialogue happens. Haridas Thakur says, wait, let me finish my japa. Continues chanting. She waits many hours, becomes tired, frustrated, leaves again. Third night, now I'm going to go. And she waits, but this time she stays. And then Haridas Thakur finishes his chanting. Very early morning. And he says, okay, what do you have come for? And she says, well, I came here to seduce you. But by hearing your chanting of the holy names, I have lost all desire. My heart is completely overwhelmed. She offers obeisances and says, I am your servant, please engage me. And he tells her, okay, you go to the banks of the river and you sit and you do as I was doing, you chant. And she became such a powerful devotee of the Lord, fully embraced and engaged in chanting of the holy names. So now we compare these two scenarios. Haridas Thakur was struggling to resist the urge of the prostitute. Why? He was tasting the taste of the holy names. When one tastes the nectar of the holy names, we said before, right? One tongue is not sufficient. What one would find in some bag of pus, bile, stool, blood, mucus, nothing. No attachment. This is sense control. Sense control doesn't mean strict. Sense control becomes easy. Why? Param drishta nivartane, higher taste. When one is engaged in Krishna, these things, one doesn't have to even avoid them. We have to avoid because of our impure senses. But this is the proof of the power of devotional service. This is not to minimize the position of Vishwamitra Muni. He's a great Muni. But it's to show the supremacy of bhakti in controlling the senses. So this is our process. To see Krishna, we have to purify the senses. We're going to purify the senses by devotional service. Our devotional service is still in the developing stage, so we have to be very rigid, disciplined in our practice. Because the internal discipline is still developing. Haridas Thakur didn't need discipline to avoid the temptation. We need discipline. We have to let the intelligence speak and not the mind. What time we should wake up in the morning? The time the intelligence says, not the mind says. What we should eat every day? What the intelligence says, not what the mind says. What we should see every day? What the intelligence says, not what the mind says. Use one's intelligence to conquer and control the senses and the mind. That is the path of sadhana bhakti. And so the ladies on the rooftop have nicely said, and this is the only way to purify our existence, by this rigid practice of devotional service and control of the senses. Granthara Shrimadbhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Any comments, questions?
Thank you, Prabhu. Thanks for the class. My question is for practicing devotional service, for some period of time, we may not think of doing those bad habits. But after some time, suddenly, due to some sudden temptation or some sudden triggering in the mind, again that habit should trigger. So what we have to do, we have to intense our devotional service.
Yeah. Initially, it becomes quite easy to detach from the material hankerings because we are experiencing the spiritual life. That is Krishna's mercy. But then Krishna also sends test. He tests us. Why He's testing us? Because when initially it becomes easy, we take it for granted. So He'll test us. He'll test us with some temptations. And we have to stay disciplined. That's where, again, intelligence has to take over. No. Taste is there. Desire is there. No problem. Don't do it. The taste and desire is there, born out of our contamination. That we cannot deal with. Don't lament that the taste is there. Lament if the intelligence becomes overpowered by the mind's desire. So we have to, that's where the discipline comes. Right? Krishna says, after Arjuna asks this invisible force, right? How to conquer lust. He says devotional service and control the senses. You have to do both. You know, it's very cold outside, right? And if you start driving your car and it's cold, you can turn the heat on. But if you have the heat on and the windows open, what is the point? We have to close the windows and turn the heat on. Close the windows means we have to control our senses and practice devotional service. Right? So, when those tests come, they're going to come. They're going to come. The tests come. But Haridas Thakur passed the test, flying colors. So, yes, when we face those tests, those temptations, we have to, stay disciplined in our spiritual practice. This word discipline has a negative connotation. But it's our strength. To stay disciplined is a source of strength. You'll be proud. Oh, I resisted that temptation. But in fact, when you fail to that temptation, what happens? You lament. You feel guilt. So discipline is strength. I overcame that temptation. And how we overcome it? By good association. By good engagement in our chanting. Our japa is the source of that strength. So, those tests will come. And when you pass that test, the experience in your bhakti grows dramatically. Because you have purified now. And so now the more we purify, the more we're going to taste, right? Why am I not tasting? Because I have contaminated my senses. But as I pass these tests, I'm getting more and more taste. What happens when I get more and more taste? More desire, more power to resist. Because I'm getting the experience. It builds upon itself. So have faith, resist, use the intelligence. Don't listen to the mind, listen to the intelligence. And that is why I always say that start using the intelligence in easy ways. What's the easiest way? I like this one the best. Your intelligence decides what time you wake up in the morning. Not your mind. You set your alarm and you put your phone far away. That takes intelligence. Because we all know when that phone rings in the morning, mind is going to say 5 more minutes. Always. Right? If you want a second, very practical, intangible way, then you let your intelligence decide what you're going to eat. Tongue will desire so many things, but let your intelligence. So when we start practicing this way, in some small ways, we start to experience the power of the intelligence. And let the mind speak, it's no problem. No worries. Let it speak. But don't act on it. Even the temptation is there, nothing to feel guilty about. That is the nature of it. But don't act on it. Oh, I want to watch this thing. I should not watch it. I want to watch it. I'm not going to. Okay. Don't worry that the want was there. That's going to happen because we have conditioning. Worry only when we watch it. It's okay?
I also remember when you say this analogy, like senses in mind, intelligence, like the thing in Bhagavad Gita chariot.
The
horse's chariot and the string, the controller.
Yeah, because in that example, it's such a perfect example. We need the horses to get us to our destination. Right? So the horses are the senses. They're not to be stopped, they're to be used. We need them. How will we see Krishna without our eyes? How will we hear about Krishna without our ears? How will we taste the nectar of Radha Kunj Bihari's mercy through prasadam without our tongue? So we need our senses. Just like the horses are needed to move the chariot. But the horses have to be tied up and used productively. That is through the mind. But the mind has to be controlled by the driver. The charioteer has to hold. If the charioteer lets go of the ropes, what happens to the chariot? Into the ditch. So the intelligence has to be strong to hold the mind. Then the passenger, the soul, reaches desired destination. So we know what we need to do. Right?
Thing is, we should act upon it.
Now we have to. And that's history. And in good sadhu sangha, with good sadhana, this becomes possible. Pick something to be unbreakably disciplined on. Pick something. You can't do it all at once, but pick something. That no matter what, I'm going to do this. It's a start. And you'll see the reciprocation from Krishna. Appreciating that discipline, that sacrifice. And he will propel us to become disciplined in the second thing, then the third, then the fourth. Add one in time, just like we add japa. When we said chant 16 rounds, we began impossible. But by adding one round, then going to 2, then 3, we are making progress. So similarly, in this discipline, pick something. I'm not going to do this anymore. Whatever it is. It can be even small. And then build our discipline that way. There's a practical way to try to bring, because Krishna will help us when he sees our sincerity.
One more question, Prabhu. Like, even to start, like, in devotional service, like, do some, even chanting, we start with sing 1 round, 2 rounds, and like how to stay motivated throughout and not to get, even if we are not trying to increase in an activity, like devotional activity also, even if you are trying to do more, but you are unable to do at some point, how to get motivated and how to continue.
Our knowledge of why will propel our actions. Right? Because the more I know how we became motivated to study so hard, because we had so much faith in that paper that would then get us different type of paper, green paper, that would then get us so-called happiness. So that the determination is fueled by faith in the objective. Right? So as we read more, as we associate more, as we render practice, our faith will build. So the faith fuels our determination. Whatever we have faith in, we are determined to get. I have so much faith to acquire, not even paper now, some digital number. We don't even see the money. But we have so much faith in it, we'll do anything to get it. Right? If the currency crashes tomorrow, all that effort is wasted. But we have so much faith that the currency won't crash. Right? So when it comes to faith of chanting Krishna's names, oh, I don't know. So faith in the objective is what will fuel our determination. So we have to keep building our faith, keep reminding us, this is actually working. Reading Shrimadbhagavatam, right? What it does, we just got some faith and power of holy names and controlling senses by comparing and contrasting two pastimes. Right? So like this knowledge, it helps build the faith. That's why Krishna, we said in the beginning of Shrimad Bhagavatam, right? By the practice of devotional service, two things happen. Detachment and knowledge. Detachment and knowledge. Both help us. Okay? Thank you. Grantaraj Shrimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.